All right, now let's talk about organic compounds. What are they? What are the different types? So first of all, let's start off with organic compounds. What does that mean? Something that is organic. All right, so people are thinking, okay, organic is referring to some kind of pesticide, lack of hormones. No, we're not talking about organic. That's different. That's a marketing organic. This organic usually refers to as some kind of molecule that contains carbon and hydrogens. So carbon and hydrogen groups are referred to as organic compounds. So the next 4 molecules that I'm going to be talking about all have either carbon and hydrogen or a combination of the two. So they must be present in any kind of organic compound. So the first organic compound we're going to talk about is a carbohydrate. So carbohydrate. What is a carbohydrate when you first think about it? So a carbohydrate is referred to as a sugar. So first thing you think about when it's a carbohydrate, it's a sugar. Okay, so there's different types of carbohydrates, right? You have simple sugars like table sugar, starches, which are more complex. So these are referred to as mono, di, and polysaccharides. These different types is really depending on the number of carbohydrate chains. So mono has only 1 carbohydrate. Di has 2. Poly has multiple. If you ever hear the word oligo, this is referring to a couple, a few. All right? So this is referring to this. And so like we said before, the different types of carbohydrates that we have are, for example, our simple sugars. So glucose. So this is a normal metabolite that's responsible for generation of ATP, adenosine triphosphate, which is required for energy. You have fructoses, which come from fruit. Mannoses. And also galactoses. So galactose again comes from the dairy products, any kind of milk. So any combination of these chains give you a di, poly, or an oligosaccharide. And so these sugars function in generation of ATP, so energy. They also play a big role in signaling, cell signaling. And also, when we look at signaling, every cell has its own identity. These identities are referred to as these glycoproteins or any kind of sugar molecule. These sugar molecules play a role in distinguishing different types of cells. And then finally also structure. It plays a role in structure of the different cell types. Now we have our lipids. So what are lipids? Lipids are referred to as fats, fatty acids, and triglycerides or cholesterols or triglycerides, high density lipoproteins. So all these different types of lipids are fats. And so what's unique about lipids, what are they made of? So majority of our lipids are made up of these metabolites called fatty acids and glycerols. So fatty acids and glycerol. So all of our steroid hormones like testosterone, estrogen, progesterone, these are all lipids, if anybody asks. Okay? What's really important about these molecules, they are highly hydrophobic. So what does that hydrophobic mean? They hate or they're scared of water. All right? And the final thing, what is their main function? Is, again, they play a big role in storage of energy, generation of energy, storage of heat. And they also play a big role in the hormones that we're going to talk about later in the endocrine system. So all of our steroid hormones are derived from lipids. Next, we have our proteins. So our proteins are made up of what? They are made up of amino acids via peptide bonds. So these peptide bonds, we have about 20 amino acids. And there are, if we break it up, there are 10 essential, meaning that your body needs them, and 10 non-essential, meaning your body can create them on their own. And what is their function? Their main function here is, again, energy is another function of the proteins. Energy plays a big role. They also play a role in storage, structure. So they're the building blocks of majority of our structures. And also they play a big role in transport. There's so many functions for proteins. Proteins actually do a lot of other things, like all of our enzymes are made of proteins, etc. And then finally we have our nucleic acids. So when we look at the nucleic acid, what is the first thing you think about? First thing that should come up to your head is any kind of genetic information. So DNA, RNA are genetic fingerprints. And RNA. What are they made of? What the majority of the composition of these nucleic acid is that they're made up of nucleotides. So these nucleotides give the actual structure for these nucleic acids of DNA and RNA. And again, what is their main function? Their main function is, again, generation of DNA, so creating the genetic backbone. So everything, when we look at proteins, fats, sugars, begin with this genetic information. So genetic blueprint, and also creating certain other kinds of signaling. So genetic blueprint is usually referred to as DNA, and then the signaling, because RNA is responsible for what? Production of proteins. And if we have RNA producing proteins, RNA plays a big role in generation of signaling. And so these are the 4 organic compounds that are present in the body.